importance of the KPIs and the numbers, what's really, really important for us is the learning and how we share that learning across you guys as providers. So it's great we've got some providers on the call today. We know we're going to have lots of providers who are going to watch back this recording as well and pick up. So really great as we go through the next 50 minutes. Just if we can get some interactions and feed in, then that would be great as well. And we've got some of the guys joining now, which is good. Hi, is that Laura? Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Laura, literally just everyone was just introducing themselves. Did you just want to introduce yourself and where you're from? No pressure.
Okay, I'm Laura and I live in Gunners Lake, and I am running a forest school for toddlers at the moment and helping out with Denise and the guys at Nature.
Great. I think people got most of that. Laura, my name's Tim Murray, and I'll be leading the next kind of 45 minutes from Active Cornwall, and I lead on all our children, young people and families work. And we've just asked the guys just to drop in some other bit, then contact details in the chat so we know who's arrived, so your name and which organisation you're from, and most people have done that, so you can pick that up. I was just sharing about how we want providers to work together and learn from each other, so it's really important, that kind of discussion and what we do going forward. And we'll make sure that the recording from this is sent out straight away. So I've got a short presentation, and I'm just going to share my screen now, and we will just talk through what we've got. Give me 2 secs on here. And does that work, Lewis?
Yes, that's good.
So as Louis said, we have the program's called the Time2Move Holiday Programme. We've got this time to eat branding, and we use the time to for lots of things: time to play, time to eat, time to be active. So we're calling this, branding this as one of our time to eat provider learning webinars. And again, it's just making sure that the food element is really upfront and central to our programme. That when we're from Active Cornwall, it's sometimes very easy to slip back in. It's about the physical activity. Well, it is about the physical activity, but it's about the food just as much as the physical activity. And we need to make sure you as providers are aware of that and how we support you to make sure they both run at an equal kind of level as we go through the next 3 years delivering this programme in Cornwall. So I've told you what the session's about. It's going to last an hour. If you want to speak, use the hands up function. We'll let you know. If people feel confident, then definitely get some discussion going. Please use the chat function. It is going to be recorded. So again, like the otherwise, if you don't want to talk because it's been recorded and you don't want your face on the recording, then please turn your camera off. It's great if people do want to leave it on. It does help as we get some discussion going as well. I'm coming at any point, but we will have a Q&A at the end to utilise the time that we've got leading through. So that's a bit of an intro for the next kind of hour, along with an overview of what we're going to cover. So there'll be a quick overview of the programme, what the programme is, what the programme's trying to achieve, and then there's a bit about what's required linked to the food and nutritional education element from you guys as providers and from us as the local authority responsible for delivering the programme, what support there is available, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end if people have got questions or want any clarification around what they've heard in the last 40 minutes. So I think some of you, if not all of you, will be aware of this around what the Time2Move programme is. So it's part of the government's national programme funded by the Department for Education, Holiday Activities and Food Programme. So referred to nationally as the HAF programme, Holiday Activities and Food. In Cornwall, it's branded as the Time2Move Holiday Programme. And it is really there to achieve those 6 things. So how do we get children to eat healthily over the school holidays, be more active during the school holidays, take part in those engaging and enriching activities, be safe and not be socially isolated, have a greater knowledge of health and nutrition, and be more engaged with school and other local services. And those 6 things, it's probably not a surprise that the eating healthily sits as the #1 thing that sits at the top, and really did come around when the national holiday food voucher scheme stopped for children on free school meals. So for children to be able to access a free nutritional meal over the school holidays, this is the only option for those free school meal children. So the food element is really, really important, as well as the health and nutritional education bit. that we lead. So we want to make sure it is about physical activity, but the food bit sits right alongside that as being really, really important. The other bit is the family engagement, and this is really important about how we engage families. And there's two elements that sit around that family engagement, and that's about how we develop their understanding of nutrition and food budgeting, and how they are signposted towards other information and support, e.g. health, employment, food and education. I think this is the really tricky bit. We know this programme is going to be seen as an extension to kind of school, extension to getting childcare over the holidays, but how do we really engage the whole family in what we're looking to do and develop that understanding that this programme wants to do? So again, we'll share some practices, and we want to again capture from you as providers some really good examples of where we've engaged family engagement and share that when we go across. So we have some good examples already around providers that have certain sessions which are for the whole family, so the family need to be there and engage with the whole family during the session. So we can share some of that as we move on and after this this short session that we've got now. I'm going to just touch on the food provision. So what the food provision needs to be, what it needs to look like, and how that can work for you guys as providers, and what support you can get to make sure you've got the right food provision for your activity. So as the standards say, we need to provide at least one meal a day for the children that attend the provision, and that meal must meet the national school food standards. The expectation from us is that majority of that food is going to be a hot meal. And we do want to understand from providers where that's a real challenge and how we can support that. And we also acknowledge that there's going to be occasions when it's not possible to do a hot meal, and their cold food can be provided where appropriate as well. So expectation is that it's hot, but we do understand and acknowledge that there's the times when cold food will be provided, needing to adhere to the school food standards, and I'll touch on them a little bit later, what the school food standards are and how we can make sure we support you to the school food standards. The other three elements is about all food providers part of this programme must comply with regulations on food preparation and food hygiene. So making sure that we're well aware of what those standards are and regulations around food prep and food hygiene in what that looks like. It should always meet the dietary kind of needs of the children as well. So making sure the food is appropriate to the nature of the session. And what that looks like in moving forward. Food hygiene laws can be inspected at any point throughout this this programme. We are part of the local authority. It's the local authority that's been funded. Food hygiene within the local authority are aware of this programme and are aware that we're providing food for these children. We're not expecting any checks, but they could come out and carry out some checks linked to this programme and could come out and do some inspections. So we need to make sure we apply with those food hygiene laws as part of the sessions going forward. And again, we can give support on that, we can give training on that, and I'll touch on some of that later moving forward. You'll get access to this presentation where these are, let's say, the school food standards and the allergy guidance for schools. They're links, they're live links. You can click on them and you can pick up some of those areas when you take that through. So just in summary, one meal a day, expectations that it's hot, linked to the school food standards, and then those three areas where we need to comply with around food prep and food hygiene, and making sure we're compliant with those food hygiene laws as being really, really important moving forward. I touched on the school food standards, and I don't expect you to read all of that, but it's a nice infographic around the school food standards. And you can see the school food standards and what's there. They're mandatory for all schools, and they're food-based and provide clear guidance for caterers and what should be served to pupils in schools. And again, we're expected to take on the school food standards for the holiday provision and what that looks like. So really important that we look at that. They are mandatory for the school day and mandatory for this programme. They don't just apply for the meal, they apply for snacks and everything that you're giving children during that day that they could be with you for the holiday programme. And then that key thing around variety across the school week, they call it, but across our holiday week, the 4 days of provision you could be delivering, and making sure we've got that variety around those different areas that you can see on that image to the right moving forward. And they're obviously, as you can imagine, the standards, huge advocates for the use of fresh and locally sourced ingredients, sustainability. But I'm going to touch on food miles and everything that we know about kind of moving forward as well. So you can have a look at that when we send that forward. Any challenges around the school food standards, please have a conversation with us. It's great we've got Tom, who's on the call today, from Healthy Cornwall, and the support they can give around achieving the school food standards. We've also got lots of schools that have obviously lived and breathed this work around how they adhere to the school food standards, and we can share some really good practice from schools around adherence to those school food standards for the meals that you're going to provide moving forward. The other diagram you've got, and we'll touch on this with some resources going forward, is the Public Health England Eat Well plate, and it's an Eat Well guide, but they call it the Eat Well plate, and the different components within that plate to encourage children to eat well, and not just children, but this could also be very much part of that education piece, nutritional education piece with parents and families. This is the government's recommendations really on healthy diets and what a healthy diet looks like, and involves a healthy balanced diet and what that looks like. We probably all know the eat 5 a day and the 5 portions of fruit and vegetables. It will also talk about what you base meals around. I think that's the yellow area, how you base meals around the elements in that yellow area. We'll talk about water, bringing in the amount of water that needs to be consumed in a day. And also the bit around dairy and alternatives for dairy and what that looks like. And the element there around eating beans and pulses and fish, eggs and meat, 2 portions of fish every week. And then that's obviously the Eat Well guide, and trying to how we look to educate families around what they're eating. And you can do some quite creative things with that, how you bring that to life, and children can talk about what they've eaten and where that sits within that plate, and we can get some resources to you guys if that's what they want. Most importantly, when we talk about this, though, is how do we make it really fun and enjoyable and engaging, and not just seen as an extension of schoolwork and really boring work around writing down what this looks like. So we want to make sure it's fun. We want, obviously, every time we deliver our physical activity and the work we do, or the French that you deliver, it needs to be fun, it needs to be engaging, it needs to be playful. And how do we make sure the delivery around food links to that as well, moving forward. There's lots of supporting documents available for this, and there's some links at the bottom there that you can pick up around the school food standards and school food plans and the Eat Well plate going forward. The other elements of food provision, we can come back to that Eat Well plate in a bit if there's any questions, would be these 3 other elements, which I think are really important. But how do we engage children and families in food prep and nutrition? It's an obvious thing, but we've got some really good evidence where providers are reporting that when children are involved in designing and preparing the food, they're more engaged, more willing to try new and healthier foods. We have excuse me, a real big challenge over some of the children we're engaging with on this programme. They don't eat this kind of food and they won't try it, and then we get a lot of food waste. So if children are engaged in preparing that food, they're more willing to try that food. And actually over the time period, especially in the summer we work with them, we can really look to change their perception and views on some foods and diets that they eat moving forward. So making sure children are involved in the planning and prep of the food is a really great development approach, long-term change. We really do want to develop that change as much as we can moving forward. If you can engage families in that, amazing. We get that's really challenging. We want to know if you're really engaging families. But make sure that food prep element really picks in. Even if you're bringing in external caterers to prepare your food or to work with them, can we share the number of children that are supporting them in the kitchens or wherever you're working in the cafes to make sure that links in. The bit around food and packaging waste and fewer food miles, real concern of ours is around food waste. This programme is free. It has to be free for children eligible for free school meals. We know with any provision that's free, you're going to get children that are not going to turn up. With children not turning up, we're getting more food waste. What can we do to lower that food waste? What can we do to make sure we're as carbon neutral as possible? Real element of the whole Time2Move programme and the work we do as a unitary authority is around being carbon neutral. So how do we look at that? What are the how do we get over some of those barriers around food waste? How are we ensuring children can take food home? They can take it home to families, so there's as less food waste as possible. How do we make sure we've got regular communication to parents around children turning up before we put food orders in, so we can limit that waste as much as possible in the first instance? Are things we all need to work on. And again, where we've got providers that have really nailed that and got some really good practice, then again, we want to share that and make sure we limit both of those food and packaging waste, and also as few food miles as possible going forward. So just a couple of elements to think about there. And then this element here around food information regulations, this came in, I think it was October last year. There was changes to this, known as Natasha's Law, new labelling requirements for food that's pre-packed for direct sale. This applies to our programmes. So if we are bringing in food from elsewhere and we're bringing in packaged sandwiches maybe, or some packaged food that's coming in and being used, we need to make sure the people providing you with food, or if you're doing that, we really are compliant with this guidance on labelling requirements. So again, there's a link there. You can have a look at that. We can make sure that everybody on this programme is compliant with those provisions around that area moving forward. The other bit, moving on from provision to the education piece. Before I do that, is there any questions around that food provision, those elements that I've just touched on? Nothing in the chat, everyone's pretty clear. Okay, so the nutritional education element very much links in around these 5 areas that we've got on the screen here. And I think the thing for me is probably as little as possible not being really formal learning activities. They don't want to be real kind of sit down classroom style formal learning. We know to encourage participation, to encourage these children to come back and to make these changes towards physical activity and food, fun and enjoyment is the #1 thing that's going to change these behaviours. So how do we make this bit as fun, as engaging as possible, but still making sure we deliver that element of nutritional education each day, aimed at improving the knowledge and awareness of healthy eating for children. Getting children involved in food prep and cooking, we talked about that. There's loads of evidence about how that works, especially them trying new foods, which is what we want to do. We really want to get children to try new foods. Growing fruits and vegetables. There's a little image there around Pot Gang. Pot Gang are a partner of ours. You may have received some of these at Christmas, that you are going to receive some deliveries of some Pot Gang, so some little pots around growing some seeds. And again, you could do them as part of the session, so there's no problem in using them during the session, and then children can take them home to watch them grow at home, but you could work with them to make sure it happens. There is some evidence if they're just sent home in the box, then they might not use them at home, but actually growing them as part of the sessions with you, having really fun, getting mucky with the compost and the soil that's in there, getting mucky in that, using it, getting the fingers in, planting the seeds, taking home, look mum, look what I've grown. We get it's primary school audience, and there's a challenge for secondary school audience around this. We do understand that. But really looking at ways you can grow fruit and vegetables as part of the programme and utilising those Pot Gang delivery that you're going to receive. Taste tests. Can we, if you're going to prepare this meal because you know children are going to eat this, can we have some other food that they could try as well? And utilising your budget that you get to get some taste tests for children to try different foods that comes in. But we know that we probably can't go all the way that's their meal. We need these children to have a meal and to get that energy they need during the holidays, but actually having some other food on the side that they could try, and then when it gets to the 4th day, gets into the 2nd week, they're then starting to try more of those different foods, which would be great to hear. How do we discuss food and nutrition? How do we discuss it? How do we put it into conversation? How is it part of maybe what you're doing around a physical activity game? How do we link it in around what we're doing within other activities? So those 2 last points are making sure that it's not done, all right, here we go, before lunch we do 10 minutes on food and then we don't talk about it for the rest of the rest of the day, but how do we embed it in what happens and where that links in? How do we have conversations about what children have had for breakfast before they came today? How do we stress the importance of needing to eat, of energy they get for the rest of the day, and how that will help them, etc., etc., and ways that you can bring it into just general conversation, and include within other activities just to be talking about food, which really brings that emphasis around it being really upfront food and front and central to the programme, and not something which is just a bit of a bolt-on, which we're conscious it could be with some providers where we're delivering activity. The other element I've got here is around this food education for families and carers. Really difficult, really difficult, especially when we're talking about being carbon neutral. We don't just want to get 5,000 leaflets printed, send you all a whack of leaflets and you just give them out. There we go, job done. What's happening with that information if it's given out? Is it read? Where is it put? How is that helping us be really carbon neutral, which is what we want to be for this programme? So how do we make available weekly training and advice sessions for parents, carers or other family members? How do we source that advice or how do we distribute advice on how to source, prepare and cook nutritious and low cost food? And we're looking at ways we can do that, and I'll share some support that's available going forward. And I'm sure you're going to develop your own ways, and we really want to share that with us moving forward. We're looking at some time to eat case studies that we can then share, and we'll be coming to you guys as providers to go, right, how are you doing this? We've got some suggestions, but how are you doing it? What's really worked? What hasn't worked? How do we bring that learning together that we can then share with others? And making sure that's as important as you letting us know you had 20 children turn up on your programme and you had this makeup and what the demographics look like, but that really learning around the food is just as important as those KPIs that we're always chasing, if that makes sense. We're not expecting you to do all of this without any form of support at all. We get, as part of our role, is to give some support, and bringing Tom on board from Healthy Cornwall is part of that. There's numerous bits of support that is available. The number one on the list is the Healthy Cornwall Advisors. We are working with Tom and Tom's team of Healthy Cornwall Advisors to have an advisor come out and visit your sessions if you want, to support you with delivering fun, interactive food sessions. If that's something that you want and think would really add value to your offer, please get in touch with us. Please let us know. Some providers we will be saying we've programmed these guys in to come and support, and again they'll come out. But if you're thinking we definitely want that, let us know. We can factor that in and we can put that into the plan over the Easter holidays going forward, and that's really important. Stay balanced time to eat session. We do have, spare me 2 seconds. We do have some session plans that we can share, and we will be able to put these out if you want to. We are working to develop them and make them as interactive as possible, but they look like this. So this is a Stay Balanced Time to Eat session plan, an example of one put together, 20 to 30 minute short session. And then you got a bit of an introduction, food diary activity, eat well guide, and then ways of sharing, and with 4 top tips at the end. So again, it needs to be fun, it needs to be interactive. It doesn't necessarily need to be sitting down and writing, just thinking about things. You may spread this 20 minutes out throughout the day, but there's some links in here, there's some resources. There's a nice blank Eat Well guide that you could use, where children could chuck in what they've had today and which bits of the Eat Well guide are they interacting with. Things that may work better with primary school audience, but things that you can do to help with being interactive with your sessions. So again, we're going to share all of this. It'll be available to download on our website, and you can kind of dip in and dip out with bits that you think are relevant and help support you with your provision going forward.
Tim,
yeah.
Can I quickly jump in just because it came up on the screen about the food diaries? If anyone chooses to do that, it can be really useful, but also please be mindful if you get in families to write down what they've eaten, not all families will be able to eat the same diet. So just be mindful if someone puts down what they've eaten, that whoever's instructing approaches it in a non-judgmental way. We don't want to say, oh, you're eating too much sugar, you're eating too much of this. We want to try and see the whole picture and not make it a judgmental activity, but actually just supporting it and going, okay, what are some fun swaps that we could work on? Or how can we improve this moving forward? What would you like to try moving forward? We're making sure that it's not judgmental.
Thanks, Tom. Really, really important, that, isn't it? Especially with the target audience that we're working with, and those challenges and those inequalities that we know that are there. So and just, if the technology works, I'm going to share my screen again, and we've got a really short video, and where we're linking up, and nationally the program is linking up with, well, I'll play the video instead of me talking. 2 secs.
Are you ready to become a swap ninja? The NHS Food Scanner app makes it easy to see what's in your food and drink, helping you make healthier choices. Plus,
Sorry, my bandwidth is obviously not good enough.
it's super fun to use. Here's how it works. Just scan your favourite food and drink with a phone or tablet, then swipe.
So we'll share that link to that video. Sorry about that. It's a really good, fun little video, and I'll put it in the chat that you can watch. But you got the gist of it. Talking about swaps, talking about scanning barcodes with what it says, and I think that's a great interactive thing that you could do, is just take some packaging along, download that app, maybe yourself on a phone that you've got, or an iPad, have children sitting around scanning some packaging, and what does that say, what does that, and then them sharing and talking about that. That seems an easy thing that could look to be picked up and done going forward. So we'll share that video and share what that links in there. I'm just going back to my presentation. So the other bit in here, the Stay Balanced Time to Eat sessions, we're working to develop more of them, and you'll get some opportunities around them. And we also want to learn from you as providers to put more sessions into that bank of sessions around Time to Eat. Training, so very much around what training you want. If you want training on the standards, you want training on food prep, food hygiene, there's local authority training out there that we can put on for you guys and signpost you to. So please do let us know around that if there is anything you want to pick in around there. Signposting is really, really important. There's 2 links on here, and instead of me coming out of the presentation, I'll touch on them at the end. But there's a Cornwall Council page around support if you need food. It's got linked to all the food banks. It's got linked to further support around food budgeting, food support, everything on there, which is your first point of call to signposting anybody that needs further support around food. And this programme is there to signpost. It is very much there to signpost and give that support going forward. An organisation called Transformation Cornwall and the work they do with food banks and food services. And again, that's all the links are on that one page. So instead of signposting to lots of different things or doing research, what's your local food bank to where you are and where it looks, that's the one-stop shop to signpost people to if you need help with food, which has everything on there. And the other one is the Early Help Hub. So that really kind of early help for children and young people. And again, you can refer into that Early Help Hub, which would then give that support to that child. Again, around food, but again, around wider support that child may need and way they link. And probably having those 2 things as something that's really open for you to signpost to is really, really important. As a minimum, just those 2 areas around signposting, and we'd expect providers to be wary of them, aware of them, and be able to signpost where they feel there's a need. And again, as Tom was touching on, non-judgmental. How do we do that in the right way? How do you get, if you get parents that are asking questions, you can look around those 2 areas to give that support going forward. Resources, so I've touched on 3 here. We've got the Children's Healthier Eating Toolkit, a really good toolkit that's been put together with Better Health, and you saw the Well, that's on the Sharing with Families toolkit, but this toolkit contains 10 different activities to help you support families to make positive changes to their diet. There's a particular focus on swaps and healthier swaps. So again, that toolkit is a great toolkit for you to use. You've got session plans in it, something really tangible that you can use to deliver that food bit and that food education bit, and have some fun with that Swapper app and the app that's been brought together by Better Health. The Sharing with Families toolkit is to obviously help food and drink, make healthier food and drink choices. And again, that links to the scan, swipe, swap opportunities within that app and how that works. So have some fun with that, be some really creative with that. Share it on your social media with us, let us know what's going on. And we can really look to share where providers have been, and made it really fun and engaging in how they've delivered those sessions to move them going forward. Hard copies of these resources. One of our colleagues has been asking for postal addresses. I did touch on it earlier, but there has been some printed centrally, so we're not getting printed just for us. And if we do want hard copies of some of these resources, then please let us know, and we can get them posted out direct to you guys as providers again, so we can send them straight out. Some useful links. Always important to have some useful links and where that sits. School food plan, we've touched on that. Checklist, what works well, portion sizes. The school food plan is a great resource that's out there as well. And you can look at that and develop that as you see fit, and pick in some areas from within there. And you can see a screen grab from the school food plan. Food Fact for Life, again, free resources for teaching about foods and more tangible resources and support that you can get within there. Change for Life, we've got lots of stuff. You probably recognise the branding in the food scanner app linked to the Change for Life and the branding that they're developing. Sugar Smart, still a priority with us, a local authority. As providers, you can sign up, and there's different ideas and resources around being Sugar Smart. And the Healthy Start vouchers for families that links in with that Healthy Start, again about signposting and further support going forward. Fairly sure those vouchers are still around. We will double check that when we send this out, around how you can signpost for those Healthy Start vouchers for families and being able to access free vitamins. So further support that's there as well. Healthy Cornwall, Tom's team and the team working with Tom and the way that sits. Expect to see further stuff come out around this. Tom's been busy pulling together a time to eat nutritional advice for providers, and you'll get to receive that and be able to access that. Would include lots of things around training, menu planning, resources, ongoing support, and pulling together everything that we've talked about probably over the last half an hour for you to be able to share going forward. And there's a link to the Healthy Cornwall website there, which you can see and pick up. Tom, is there anything else you want to bring in around Healthy Cornwall there? Or does that cover it?
No, not around Healthy Cornwall. I guess the only thing I do want to say is, if we're talking about food, especially with all the scanning apps and everything like that, I'd just say to try and focus it around a healthy relationship with food, rather, because sometimes the stigma can be around nutrition is only fed diets, and or if you've got a health condition, there's not a lot of positivity around learning about nutrition. So try and keep it light, try and keep it snappy. So like 1 or 2 things that they can really take home. We're not teaching them a degree. We want it to just be something fun that they can take home and go, oh, mum, dad, I learned about this. Okay. And then just focusing on making it something fun and educational that they can go away and see as useful for their life. We want it to be about well-being, not about diets.
Good advice, Tom. Thank you very much. And that's really a short kind of whistle stop into the kind of support available for food and the requirements. We welcome any questions, either use the chat. There's not many live on the call, but again, if there's other people that are watching a recording that have got any questions, please send those questions direct to the Time2Move email address that's there, or we've got a Time2Move hotline where you can phone straight in. Give us a call. There's 3 or 4 people that can access that call, that phone number, and can help you with any of those questions that you've got, as well as visiting the Time2Move section on the Active Cornwall website, where we'll make sure these resources are available for you to download. And we're developing a Time to Eat section, which will have it all as a kind of a one-stop shop for you to be able to access anything around food and those resources. Thank you very much. Did anyone on the call, any questions in the chat?
Yeah, I just had a question. It was if Tom's got any examples of those short, snappy things, because we did short, snappy activities over the Christmas holiday, but some ideas of other ones would be great, and what you see as a short, snappy session or topic type thing that would be good for the healthy relationships that you talked about.
Yeah, so for me, I guess what I'm thinking about there is looking at discussions. If you've got resources around, Healthy Cornwall have a bunch of resources that if you want to get hold of me, I'll put my email in the chat, and we can discuss about getting advisors out with some of those resources around physical pieces that you can use to go through the Eat Well guides and different food groups and make it a fun, interactive activity. There's quite a few that we've got in our resource bank. I don't want to go through it now because I'm wary of time, but I'll put my email in and I'm happy for you to contact me and we can have a discussion about it.
Okay, thanks.
There's there's some great stuff in here. There's Children Healthy Eating Toolkit. So this is the one which you can access and get hard copies of, or you can download from that link that I put in there. So have a look at things in here, and there's some session plans and some little really short, sharp little, it's mainly primary school audience. I keep saying this, I've got a real challenge around secondary school audience. We've got a challenge around secondary school audience for the programme in a whole, but more how do we pick up this around those short, snappy things around secondary school children moving forward. So yeah, do have a look at those resources and those links when we share them.
Is that the one that you put on, you know, we had the email sent out and whether we wanted some resources, and I emailed back saying, yeah, is that the one?
Yeah, you'll get, so if you send your postal address, you'll get them sent in, which will be really great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly that, when it comes in. And I was just going to share these two elements. Give me 2 seconds. So we talked about further help with food. This is the link that was in there as the one-stop shop if we've got parents or families. And again, it's if they're asking, it's really easy to signpost to, but if they're not asking and you think and you've got a relationship and you can have a conversation and understand it, and it comes in about how do we get further help with food and where food sits, this is the main area where there's everything around help with food. There's a food support map around all the food banks and everywhere they can go to get more support around food. There's things that they can do around getting food delivered, more volunteers, PDF about being worried about money and financial benefits and budgeting. So there's lots of areas on here where you can signpost and link in around that and other areas. So this is the one for there. And then the early help, I talked about the early help hub. So again, this is very much one for support for children where you notice and worthwhile having a look at that early help support that we can signpost in around these different areas where professionals can request that early help support. So there is elements out there where we can offer the families and children we need further support around food education, budgeting, or where that sits. So some options, some definite options there as well. Some things that we were going to send out is ways to share and engage with families. So there's options here for you to put out things in a newsletter on your website copy. Again, it's quite basic, but it's things around linking in around that scan, swipe, swap, way to a better health, potential social media copy, and some demo sessions and some opportunities that you can do here that may help with those short, sharp things that come. And again, this will be all available to download on our website to give that support going forward. So a few things there, a few tangible things that can give you that support. We get it's a challenge. We get the family bit is a real challenge. So we actually want to learn from you guys as providers and want people to come forward to go, yeah, do you know what? I've really done this with the family and it works well. We know we've got a provider in Bodmin that's very different. They only deliver activity to the whole family. So they will only deliver activity where the family comes with the children and everybody engages together. And we also work with CAT, Cornwall Accessible Activities Programme, around working with children SEND, and again that's with the whole family, which it gets different, and we don't want that. We understand that children need that that rest, and these children are meant to come and engage with these programs over the holidays to engage with their peers, but how do we really engage the family as well in what we're delivering? And it might just be through comms. So where have we got really good communication channels between the provider and the families that are booked on your provision, and what does that look like? Again, we want to learn from you and how you link in some of this advice and signposting. That's me. There's quite a lot in there. Any other questions? Please do follow up, post this. I'll just give Tom one last opportunity. There's no need if you want, Tom, but did you want to come in with any parting knowledge?
I think I'm all out of knowledge at the moment.
Good. It's been good though. Thanks, Tom, for your input.
You're welcome.
That's me done. I'll leave Lewis to close around any other future support and other opportunities, training opportunities for you on the programme. I started off by saying thank you, massive thank you for getting involved. We couldn't deliver this programme without you guys as providers, and good luck. Really looking forward to seeing and hearing some of the successes you're going to have over Easter. So I'll pass you to Lewis.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, no, yeah, and thanks, Tom. Really good session. I think for me, the really big things to pick up through the standards, and then those tangible activities, which Tim sort of touched on. And I really like the point about making it fun. I kept hearing that word fun, which I think everything needs to try and be for that audience, and making sure that any sort of work around that's non-judgmental. So brilliant. Thanks for that. I think just in terms of everything else now, just keep trying to get your sessions promoted. We've had over 1,000 bookings already this week across the whole of the county, which is really good. So please just keep promoting, sharing your activities on social media, and we'll love to try and share them out as well. But thank you very much for your time, and yeah, I would say have a safe trip home, but hopefully, yeah, hope to see you all soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care, everyone.